concept of a lightweight, affordable roadster seems as relevant today as it's ever been. Mazda's 4th generation MX-5 a perfect example of what can be achieved with clear objectives, single-minded purpose and a bit of engineering passion. Though the size of this market segment has shrunk in recent times, this model's good enough to reawaken the interest of enthusiasts and prize them away from hot hatches and performance coupes into a purer form of sports car motoring.
So, what's it like to drive? Well, MX-5 motoring has never been all about ultimate power, and it still isn't. The two Skyactiv G petrol engines on offer, a 131 PS 1.5 litre unit and a 160 PS 2 litre power plant that I'm trying here, seem to offer modest performance stats on paper. On the road, though, a real roadster experience awaits. This Mark IV model feeling sharper and more eager through the turns thanks to a dietary development programme which has seen over 100 kilograms trimmed from the curb weight. The freshly developed electric power system plays its part too, offering great feedback between rubber and road and ensuring that you're encouraged to make the very most from the performance on offer that sees this 2-litre model make 62 miles an hour from rest in 7.3 seconds en route to 133 miles an hour. Buyers of this variant get the option of paying extra for this top sport version, which gets a few extra dynamic aids, sport suspension, stiffer Bilstein dampers and a limited slip differential for extra traction. You don't really need any of this though to have fun in this car. Indeed, when it comes to suspension, the suppler setup of the standard models is arguably preferable. The wonderfully incisive short-shift Skyactiv MT 6-speed manual transmission is another key contributor to the whole experience, which is just as well as you'll be shunting that stubby lever around the box rather a lot to get the most out of those revvy little engines. Shorter, lower and wider than before, this is the most compact MX-5 ever made. For us, it's also the best-looking example of the breed so far, with perfectly balanced proportions and beautiful detailing that conveys motion even when at a standstill. The emotive shape has more aggression this time around, and a greater sense of energy too, but you'd always recognise it as an MX-5, the design still true to the classic roadster principles of a long bonnet, a rear set cabin and a short tail. Time to take a seat behind the wheel, where the challenge has been to keep the MX-5 traditional ergonomic simplicity, but match it to modern levels of quality, equipment, refinement and comfort. You quickly get the whole Mazda Jimba Itai driver and car as one thing, the way the driving position is being created to make you feel a part of this MX-5. We also like the flourishes of aluminium used on the air vents and the door handles, and the way that the exterior body colour flows over the door on plusher models like this one. Move out back here, and on the face of things, trunk capacity looks to have been a casualty of Mazda's move to downsize this car, having fallen by 20 litres to just 130 litres in this Mark IV model. The Japanese designers, though, beg to differ, claiming that to compensate, the area's been redesigned for greater usability. For the final word on this 4th generation MX-5, let's turn to the first thoughts of designer Masashi Nakayama when he sat down to create it. This, he decided, must be a car its customers would want to hold on to, one that could be driven for 20 years. Nakayama imagined himself as the owner of such a machine and simply hated the idea of eventually becoming bored of it. The thought of that was just too sad, he says. I wanted this to be a car I would love for a very long time, just as I do the original MX-5. Not everyone gets the MX-5 experience, of course. It certainly won't appeal to those prioritising power or people needing the practicality of a hot hatch or a sports coupe. At the other extreme, a specialist sports car maker could offer you a more intense experience, although one that, for the most part, would be largely irrelevant for public road use. And that's where this Mazda excels. You don't need a test track, a racing driver's touch, or a lottery winner's wallet with this car. Just a back-to-basics love of driving. The way it ought to be.